It's so interesting because you have the Supreme Court in South Carolina versus Katzenbach at one end of the spectrum, and then you have the majority in the Shelby County decision at the other end of the spectrum. They truly are opposites, right? They're looking at this piece of legislation through very different lenses. Where the Katzenbach court was willing to give Congress room to address what it viewed as a terrible problem that required extraordinary means to address it, the Shelby County court was less willing to give Congress that room. In part, it was because Section 5 was so successful, right? That was part of the reason why the court thought that Congress needed to better justify the federalism cost imposed by the preclearance regime of Section 4B and 5. So to the extent that voting rights discrimination continued to exist in the South, the Supreme Court in Shelby County wanted Congress to develop a record showing more intentional discrimination in voting to justify the federalism cost imposed by the preclearance regime, i.e. the fact that the states have to ask permission to enact their voting laws. So they were not as understanding as the court had been, 55 years earlier when they initially upheld the Voting Rights Act in South Carolina versus Katzenbach. Now, part of it has to do with the South Carolina versus Katzenbach court and the Shelby County court having very different rationales and reasonings for their opinion. For the Shelby County court, one thing that was important was the equal sovereignty of the states, right? So the fact that the preclearance regime singled out certain states for differential treatment, i.e. those states that had been historically terrible on these issues, was problematic for the court in Shelby County, particularly since Congress had not built a record in its view that could justify the difference in treatment. For the Shelby County court in particular, the fact that you can point to northern states that also engaged in racial discrimination in voting, just like some states in the South, yet it is states in the South that have to comply with this requirement. Well, that's a difference in treatment that is not justified. And it violated, according to the Shelby County court, the principle of the equal sovereignty of the states, or this idea that all states, when they enter the union, are on equal ground, and Congress has to have a really good reason for distinguishing between them. For the Shelby County majority, that reason was not present.